start gathering by the podium. Hey, oh, good. All right. Oh, so you're here. Okay. Oh, you're here too. Okay. Oh, all right.
I'll help keep you warm. Almost too cold than you are today.
Oh, okay. I know what they. I guess they had an order because I thought you were going to be. Everyone is here. Okay. Everyone's going to speak. You're going to speak.
She's here. Route and the Whips team said you can start. The Whip is en route.
Okay. Well, okay. What time is it now?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we'll wait 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, the next match for all of us is booked.
Is it really? It's 110 in New Mexico.
Well, for like 3 months in the summer straight.
Oh, wow.
So you're
So this is like,
Oh, pretty brutal. 7 or 8.
It's 110. That's a little counterintuitive.
We don't ever
there.
get. Doesn't it smell like fertilizer here?
It smells like the ginkgo biloba tree.
Let's go ride some horses.
I've got to see it. So glad. Is it feeling better?
It's her bill, so.
I know. I was so worried
She'd
about
always
2
be-
hours.
Susan had
Between this and in fact, I'm going to go get the
I had a shot. Didn't we get it? I got the shot. Did you get it when I got it? Or you're not
I
old
got the
enough?
shingles.
Yeah, I got it.
No, they told me I didn't need ours.
Oh,
Well,
I got
you
that.
only you get ours if you're over 60.
something.
60, I'm
I'm not quite there yet.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Oh, okay. Then I got to change this.
Yeah, you didn't put me back where you wanted to put me.
When am I supposed to put her? Before Susan or after Susan?
Oh, it's okay.
As is, but would you like to change it?
Well, I think she should. I think she should.
Pancake!
A supportive man.
Yeah, get a pencil. It's up to you. It's up to you. Either one of you.
We have a better one in my office.
I'm not standing on it. Who's going to stand on this? Do you want to sit on this? I don't think so.
Not on that. I have a different one in my office.
Oh, that's the one.
No. She's going to go after
Before the Whip?
a while. Oh, no, that's good.
Okay. And just cross that out so you know, okay?
Perfect.
Oh, wait, I didn't see someone.
Okay, we're getting there. This is good. Everybody gather around.
Lois. Hey, Lois.
You and I, the
Lois.
puzzled up Floridians.
You want me to stand on this thing?
You don't have to. I'm free.
Should I stand on this?
Yes.
Well, who's going to hold me? I might fall.
Is that the Barbara Boxer box?
Yeah, they're right. I don't know.
Keep off of it.
Okay, we're going to do it.
If you pull it back a little bit from the thing, you'll have more leverage to stand. And you can like sort of lean on the podium.
Okay. You know, like if I start to titter or teeter.
Yeah.
Catch you. We'll catch you.
All right.
We have a star athlete.
You want to help with the step ups?
Oh, you're helping me with this step up.
There you go. Okay?
Now I'm tall.
All right, good.
Okay.
Hold on to the
Is everybody here? Oh, hold on. She's telling me to hold on to the podium. That's probably going to go too. All right, we're ready, everybody?
No, but you can get them on Amazon.
Okay, folks, here we go.
They're portable with the handle.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lois Frankel, chair of the Democratic Women's. Okay, let's see. Do we have a mic?
We don't have that.
It's on. Okay, I'm going to have to talk louder. Okay. Good afternoon. I am Lois Frankel. I am chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the members who are joining us today. And we are here in response to the Alabama Supreme Court case ruling that frozen embryos are babies. And this has caused IVF clinics in Alabama to hold services in fear of liability and causing heartbreak and additional expense to families seeking fertility treatment. Our message today is clear. Reproductive freedom means that women must be able to access the health care they need to control their own lives and their future. That means women, not politicians, should be in charge of whether, when, and how to either grow or start a family. And that includes access to contraception, to abortion, and to IVF. And we know that reproductive freedom is under attack by extreme Republicans. The Alabama case is not an aberration. It's a warning of things to come. In Congress, there are 125 House Republicans support legislation that would ban abortion nationwide and define life at the moment of fertilization with no exception for IVF. Now, isn't that crazy? Yeah. Republicans want to force women to stay pregnant against their will, or while also preventing women who want to get pregnant from doing so. And they want to penalize doctors who perform abortions and penalize them for helping women start a family. And that's why we're all here to announce in our fight for reproductive freedom to support legislation that protects the use of IVF nationwide. And I'm going to thank Susan Wild. She's going to talk about her bill in a moment. I'm going to thank Julia Brownlee, who has a bill to help the veterans. And we're going to kick off by, is our whip here yet? Yes. But I'm not calling you up yet. Okay. But here's who you're going to hear from today. I'm sending you the agenda.
Okay.
You will hear from our whip. You're going to hear from a few members of our caucus that IVF is very personal to them. You're going to hear from Representative Sewell, who lives in Alabama and is going to set the stage. And now you're going to hear from Representative Susan Wild, who's had the foresight with legislation that she'll talk about.
Thank you, Chair Frankel, and thank you to everyone for joining us here today. I was proud to introduce the Access to Family Building Act a little over a month ago, which would codify the right to in vitro fertilization and other assisted reproductive technologies. And when I introduced that bill, I spoke on the House floor about my two children, Clay and Adrian, and how they are the greatest privilege of my life, to be their mother. And I have to, on a personal note, have to say happy birthday, happy leap year birthday to my daughter Adrian, who was born 28 years ago today on leap year 1996. And that was, by the way, after my own struggle with infertility. So this is a very real and personal issue to me. I talked about the emotional stories I hear from friends and family who struggle with their fertility, and you're probably going to hear some more of those today, and how it is our duty to support anyone who is looking to start or grow their families. What I didn't talk about on the House floor were the attacks that were sure to come in the wake of the Dobbs decision to all forms of reproductive health care, and how procedures like IVF, which so many families rely upon, could be at risk. And then the Alabama Supreme Court proved us right. They made the cruel decision to classify frozen embryos as children. And then many IVF clinics immediately paused their services, leaving so many hopeful parents to scramble and worry about their futures, including women who were in the middle of their IVF treatment. And the services were paused thanks to the Alabama Supreme Court. The effects of this ruling are devastating, and not just for individuals struggling with their fertility or women who decide to defer their childbearing years, but I want you to think about this. This affects cancer patients who are often advised when they are of reproductive age that they should preserve their eggs or their sperm, as the case may be, so as to preserve their ability to have a child in the future, and that would be through IVF. It affects people with severe disabilities, some of whom I have heard from in my district just in the last couple of days, people who have undergone IVF in order to be able to have a child. So let me be clear. This ruling and any barriers to assisted reproductive technology are unacceptable and cruel and anathema to the concept of building families, which is something that we revere in this country, that we talk about so much on both sides of the aisle. And yet here we are in a situation where so many families are going to be precluded if this is allowed to continue. It is why Congress must pass my bill, the Access to Family Building Act, immediately, to send a message to the entire country that we are fighting for their right to make decisions about their own bodies, their own journey through parenthood, and to start their families however they see fit. I'm proud to say that in just the past week, we have added more than 90 co-sponsors to this bill, many of whom are behind me. I invite our Republican colleagues to join us. And this bill has been endorsed by a number of national advocacy and healthcare groups. We are all committed to seeing this across the finish line. So thank you to all of my colleagues who are here with me today and everybody who is going to join in this fight to codify the right to IVF. Thank you.
Okay, let's have our whip step up to the plate.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. We are an inclusive caucus here. We all owe a debt of gratitude to Congresswoman Susan Wild, who is leading the charge to defend every American's right to start a family through fertility treatment, through IVF. And I am so grateful to Chair Frankel and the Democratic Women's Caucus for gathering us together. Thank you, my colleagues, for standing up to the GOP's cruel assault on reproductive health and for answering their extremism with a bill that prioritizes freedom and family. This is an issue that unites House Democrats, but more importantly, it unites Americans. From Alabama to Massachusetts and Nevada and Florida and Pennsylvania, because the GOP's assault on reproductive freedom isn't limited to red states. This is a national threat to the health and freedom of women in every single zip code, in Boston as much as in Birmingham. This is post-Roe America. This is the Republican dream realized into a waking nightmare. And it can still get worse from here. The GOP is telling us Dobbs was just the beginning. 125 House Republicans sponsored a bill that would take the Alabama ruling nationwide. 195 House Republicans voted against legal contraception. And just yesterday, Republicans blocked the bill that Congresswoman Wild is sponsoring in the House from coming to the floor of the Senate. At every turn, they're rolling back the right to abortion and birth control for as many people as they can. Their mission is clear, but so is ours. House Democrats will fight until reproductive freedom is once again the law of the land. And it is my privilege to yield to a leader in that fight, a champion for liberty and justice, a representative and advocate for those devastated Alabama families, my colleague, Congresswoman Terry Sewell.
I want the glasses. I want her glasses. No, I'm fine.
Good afternoon. I'm Congresswoman Sewell, and I proudly represent Alabama's 7th Congressional District, which includes the historic cities of Birmingham and Tuscaloosa and my hometown of Selma. Since the Supreme Court's devastating decision overturning Roe v. Wade, we have seen states across this nation work overtime to restrict a woman's freedom to make her own personal health care decisions. And nowhere is that more apparent than my home state of Alabama. As the only Democrat and the only woman in Alabama's House delegation, I join my colleagues in expressing my outrage over the recent ruling effectively banning IVF treatment for women who are simply trying to have a child. Not only is this decision alarming and unacceptable, but we are already seeing the chilling effect as clinics cut off fertility treatments in fear of prosecution. On Tuesday, my office hosted Secretary Becerra for a roundtable discussion in Birmingham, Alabama, to hear from some of the Alabama women affected. Many of them have spent years desperately trying to have children. Some have devoted their entire life saving to fertility treatments, and some were in the middle of the process only to have it yanked away, only to have their dreams and their hopes ripped away by a Republican-led Alabama Supreme Court decision. Now let me be clear, women in Alabama and all across this nation deserve access to a full range of reproductive health care services. Every woman deserves that. And I'm fighting for Alabama women whose voices have not been heard by that Supreme Court decision and who stand firmly with me in being outraged by this decision, and I am proud to be a sponsor of Susan Wiles' bill. Absolutely. Frankly, it is unthinkable that in the year 2024, we would be fighting this fight. Surely reproductive freedom was a battle that my mother's generation won for us. But everywhere we look, old battles have become new again, against extremists working to erode our hard-fought rights and freedoms and roll back our progress. Efforts by Republicans to criminalize reproductive health care are on full display. And make no mistake, while some of our colleagues across the aisle have attempted to backtrack, the role that the Republican officials have been playing in creating this nightmare should not be lost on any of us. As we speak, women in Alabama are protesting the State House, asking for their reproductive freedoms and asking not only for an exception for IVF, but making sure that all range of reproductive health services are available to them. I stand with them. We stand with them. It was Donald Trump himself who handpicked 3 Supreme Court justices with the full intention of overturning Roe v. Wade. And even now, as my colleagues have said, 125 House Republicans, including Speaker Johnson himself, are currently co-sponsoring the legislation that would effectively ban IVF nationwide. We cannot stand by as politicians work to strip women of their reproductive freedom, nor can we accept a world where women today enjoy fewer rights and freedoms than their mothers and their grandmothers. My Democratic colleagues and I are fighting to restore the full protections of Roe v. Wade into federal law and to protect reproductive freedom for women in Alabama and all across this nation. And with that, I want you all to hear us say, we will not give up. We will not give in. This is the fight of our generation, and we must win it.
All right, good job. All right. Thank you. And now, as I said, this issue is very personal to many of our members. I'm going to have a few of them are going to come up here. I'm going to start with, let's get Wasserman Schultz, Trayan, Lee, Kamala Dove.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I need this. Yeah, exactly. Thank you to Congresswoman Frankel and especially Congresswoman Wild for shining this desperately needed light on in vitro fertilization. We're here for 2 urgent reasons. First, it's critical that voters understand what the threat that this Republican march to a national abortion ban means, especially for families relying on IVF. Second, it's vital that we pass Congresswoman Wild's Access to Family Building Act to protect IVF and reproductive care, and I would encourage all of my colleagues here as the founding co-chair of the Family Builders Caucus to join the caucus so that we can make sure that we unite together to push to ensure access to IVF and other fertility services. Alabama's ruling is just the latest domino to fall since Donald Trump and Republicans destroyed our reproductive rights. Now we clearly see how Dobbs emboldens the fetal personhood movement, bolstering absurd claims that embryos must be protected as children. It defies common and medical sense, but let me tell you about the real-world implications for families like mine who relied on IVF. For starters, let's be very clear. Infertility is a disease. It affects 1 of every 8 American couples. Throughout my public life, I fought to treat it like one, to lift the stigma from those struggling with fertility. But far-right MAGA extremists are once more taking us backward. Some of you might know my IVF story. My husband and I had trouble conceiving when I was only 29 years old. But I was finally able to conceive through IVF, and we had our incredible twins, Rebecca and Jake. Some of you know Rebecca. They are both healthy young adults now who will turn 25 in May. Seeing this struggle up close, I fought for years. We have a younger child also who was conceived naturally. So sometimes things happen in miraculous ways. Seeing this struggle up close, I fought for years to help expand access to health insurance coverage for the prohibitively expensive fertility treatments that make it only accessible to those who can afford it. And as a breast cancer survivor, I'm also especially concerned with how a diagnosis and necessary treatment affects a survivor's ability to start a family. For so many survivors like me with a BRCA gene mutation or other forms of cancer, IVF can be a godsend. Yet now it's clouded in uncertainty. The angst doesn't stop there, though. There are so many levels and depths to the potential and likely blockage of access for in vitro fertilization, and I will share with you what is likely looming in the future for my own family. My daughters and son will need to be tested for the BRCA mutation. If they carry the gene, they can go through IVF when they decide to start their family. And thanks to genetic research, the embryos can be tested, and those without the BRCA mutation can be implanted, ending the cycle of generational increased cancer risks in our family. Can you imagine what giving personhood to embryos will do? It will cause more cancer and death in more families. The Alabama Supreme Court decision and the push for a national abortion ban will also make fertility preservation for cancer patients much, much harder. That's why my cancer survivorship bill, which I encourage all of you to co-sponsor, expands Medicaid coverage so cancer patients aren't forced to forfeit parenthood to stay alive. Any state with so-called personhood laws can be the new Alabama, a state where couples are now in chaos about how and when and whether they can start a family. We all deserve the freedom to control our own bodies and future, and choosing in vitro fertilization, birth control, or abortion is our decision, not one that judges or politicians should decide. So we must fight for our freedoms and make sure all of our friends and neighbors know the stakes, and here in Washington, we must pass the Access to Family Building Act. Women's lives and future hang in the balance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We should have done it in order.
Yeah, really.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute honor to be standing here with my colleagues in the Democratic Women's Caucus who understand explicitly how important IVF is to our families across our country. You know, before the disastrous Alabama decision last week, I really hadn't talked about my journey to becoming a mom because of how difficult it was for me, both physically and emotionally. My husband and I struggled for a long time to get pregnant, and like so many women across our nation, I turned to IVF as our last resort, and that process was harder than I ever could have imagined, and much more difficult than most women will ever admit. 5 years of treatment, multiple rounds of daily injections, multiple surgeries, ultrasounds that you go into with so much hope only to leave in tears. But twice, IVF worked for us. And I wake up every day so grateful that it gave us 2 beautiful daughters, Grace and Caroline, who are the light of my life. Every week when I fly down here, I drop my girls off at the bus stop, I hug them, and I tell them how much I love them. This week, that hug was a little longer than usual, because I know that there are thousands of women in Alabama right now who are having that same chance to have children ripped away from them. Families who have gone through every possible option, every fertility treatment on the books before turning to IVF, having that opportunity disappear in a matter of moments. It pains me to say this, but it is hardly a surprise. This is something we've been raising concerns about since the Dobbs decision almost 2 years ago, that sloppily written Republican abortion bans could go far beyond their goal of eliminating a woman's right to abortion care. It's why Congresswoman Wild authored the Access to Family Building Act to protect IVF access no matter what the states do. And it's a travesty that in addition to Senate Republicans blocking passage of the bill yesterday, the only Republican in the House willing to attach their name to this legislation withdrew her co-sponsorship yesterday. Make no mistake, we will not run away from this issue. We will not let them off the hook. We will remind the American people every single day that more than half of the Republicans in Congress support legislation to ban IVF. Not just in Alabama, but in every state in our country. We will remind voters that access to mifepristone hangs in the balance because Republican politicians think they should be making decisions about women's health for us. And we will take our message to the ballot box to show them again, just as we did in 2022, 2023, and in New York just 2 weeks ago, that the American people will not allow Republicans to turn back the clock on our most fundamental freedoms. It's now my pleasure to turn it over to my good friend and my classmate, Congresswoman Susie Lee.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be here with so many incredible women and a few great men, because women in America wake up. I look at all these young women who are of childbearing age. Wake up, because they're coming for your freedom and they're coming for your choice. And this is just one more step. It's a building block of criminalizing abortion and, more importantly, making sure that women do not have control over their own reproductive choices and healthcare choices. We are clear in our position that that choice remains and should remain between a woman and her doctor. Not in the Supreme Court, not in the Alabama Supreme Court, not in the House of Representatives. And that is why we are so proud to join Susan Wild in her bill, Access to Family Building. Be clear, there is no more pro-life treatment than IVF.
That's right.
There is no more pro-life treatment than IVF. And it is so ironic and cynical that this decision is basically coming out of the extreme pro-life movement. And I'm saying it is not pro-life, it is anti-choice, and it is anti-woman. So women in America, wake the hell up. And I will say this is incredibly personal to me as well. I have 2 beautiful children because of IVF. And like Representative Trahan, I suffered for years on infertility. It is physically demanding, and it is emotionally demanding, and it is financially devastating for many, many families. And my heart goes out to those families who have seen their dreams interrupted because of the Supreme Court in Alabama, who basically wants to make abortion illegal across the board, make sure that fetuses are defined as humans. And by the way, it doesn't stop there. It will go even further and start to ban contraception. And so that is why I'm so proud to stand here with my colleagues, and we are not giving up this fight, because this fight is about the 8 million Americans who gave life because of treatments for infertility. So thank you all for being here, and with that, I will introduce Sydney. Dove. Okay, sorry.
As you can see, we are all fired up because this is incredibly personal. My name is Sydney Kamlager Dove. I'm the Congresswoman for the 37th Congressional District. And truthfully, I did not expect to be here. But we're here. We're here because Alabama women need us and because women across this country need us. Women in Alabama who were dreaming of having a family just got gut punched. And Clarence Thomas said in his writings about the Dobbs decision that it was just the beginning, that contraception was next. Everything is next. These people are not about pro-life or life-giving. They are about life-taking. They are about option-taking. IVF is the option you choose when every other option has failed you. I tried for years to conceive. I thought it would be easy. You just have sex. But my body didn't get that memo. And we tried for months and months and months and months. And eventually we leaned on IVF. It is the most painful, sometimes the most shameful, psychologically taxing, financially draining, anxiety-producing, isolating journey you can ever take. And you take a shot in your stomach, and with that you're inserting a dream that this medicine will work. You put all of your faith in your doctor, who is giving you as many options as they can to help you do the thing that everyone tells you you are born to do, and that is to give birth. And now with the Alabama ruling compounded with Dobbs, those doctors are going to be asking themselves if they will get a rap sheet just by trying to provide you those options. My journey ended with 3 stepchildren because the journey became too taxing emotionally and too financially prohibitive for me to continue. But here we are, women stuck in the middle. On the one hand, folks who are making financial decisions about if it is the right time for them to conceive are being criminalized. On the other hand, women who actually have the resources to try additional treatments are now being criminalized. What do they want from us? They want our bodies. They want to decide who can parent and who can birth. And it is not their decision to make. Ye Republicans of forked tongue who say, I support IVF treatment, but I support Dobbs' decision. You cannot do both. You are either for women and our right to decide about our families and our lives and our bodies, or you are against us. But I'm here to tell you, this Women's Caucus is coming for you. Every cynic, every liar, every hypocrite, every fraudster who's trying to fraud the American people into thinking that they care about women. We are coming for you and your lies. And we are coming for you and your decisions to take away our freedoms. This is unsustainable. Why are you scaring young women who are interested in procreating and bringing life into this world that we are all trying to save from war, from climate, from devastation, from poverty. Why are you taking that chance for them to conceive away from them? Shame, shame on you, you liars, you Republican liars who do not care about women, who do not believe in science, who do not support doctors, and who do not care about choice. That is why I am so grateful for Congresswoman Wild and her Access to Family Building Act. That is why I signed on. That is why I shared this story that I have never shared before, because it is so important for people to know that we need to continue to have access to treatments like IVF so that women still have the opportunity to dream. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. A lot of stories. Good story. So listen, our votes have been called, but Susan will answer. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Okay, Susan wants to know where this goes from here.
Well, as you heard, there's a companion bill in the Senate. It is substantially identical to this one. We need to get a vote on both bills in the House and the Senate. We've heard from many Republicans in the last few days that they're in favor of IVF, so now we're challenging them to show it and to have the Speaker of the House bring this for a vote.
Absolutely.
We got it? Are we done? Okay, thank you everybody for being here.
Okay,
Good job.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent
Thank you.
job.
Great, great, great.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Good.